Hi everyone, I'm Shelly from There's No Place Like Home at redheadmom8.wordpress.com. Yesterday, my kids watched the movie Wonder for the umpteenth time. And as I sat there watching it with my kids, my mind started to wander, as it tends to do when I've seen something too many times. And that movie made me realize that there are a lot of films out there that really perpetuate some homeschooling myths. And there was one in particular that I really wanted to just encourage you about today that this movie actually reminded me of. So let's get started. All right, so now I don't know if you have actually seen this movie before. If you have, you might think that I'm talking about the socialization aspect when she decides that she's going to send her son to school to get socialized. But that's actually not what I'm going to talk about, even though that part of the movie irritated me a little bit. What I'm going to talk to you about is the fact that not all homeschooled kids are prodigies. And that's really what this entire video is about when your homeschooled child is not a prodigy. And you know, I just thought of that when I saw this movie, because you know, August, his name is August, he was like super smart. And I'm glad that the movie portrayed him that way and not really as super ignorant, because it usually tends to go one way or the other when it comes to movies and homeschooled kids. But I realized as I was watching it, and I saw his mom sitting there in what used to be their classroom, and I don't remember if it said how old he was. He might have been like 9 or 10, at least that's what he looked like he was. And you know, in the classroom at home that they used when they were homeschooling him, there were all sorts of algebraic equations all over the board. And you know, again, he just was really smart in science. And I think that is something that really can hold us homeschooling parents back, whether we are new or whether we've been doing it for a long time. Because even though I know that a lot of us try not to do it, we tend to compare ourselves to one another. And a lot of times when you see homeschooling families highlighted, like whether it's in the movies, because you know, the girl in Mean Girls who used to be homeschooled, she was also like really smart at calculus. So either in movies or in the media, when they do highlight homeschooling families, they usually tend to go towards those families who have these outstanding kids who are just absolute child prodigies. You know, like when they were 4, their kids had mastered 3 languages, and by the time they were 12, they had their master's degree, and by the time they were 19, they were a doctor. Or either they will highlight families that had some kind of really successful entrepreneurial business. And you know, I just want to encourage you that that's not what most homeschooling families are like. And if you're anything like me, yeah, there were times that I actually looked at families like that and I was just thinking, wow, what are they doing differently than I am? But you know, I think that we need to understand that God did not create all of our kids the same. And our children who don't happen to be prodigies, they are just as worthy, they should be just as accepted by us as those who are out there, you know, doing all kinds of fantastic things. I think what ends up happening is when we do hear of these like amazing stories of these homeschooled kids who did these outstanding feats, you know, it makes us start to question whether we're doing the right thing, whether we are doing things the right way, what it is that we can do to make our kids that way. But the thing is that our kids, you know, they're not always that way, and that is okay. Because what I have realized over the 10 years that I have been homeschooling is that academic excellence should not be your primary reason to homeschool. And, you know, I'm definitely not saying that it's not something that you should strive for your kids, but it should not be the primary thing that you are focusing on. What you need to be focusing on with your children are helping them to have confidence, helping them to know how to be inquisitive, how to question things, how to be independent, how to be empathetic, how to have integrity, faith in God, faith in their fellow man, and at the same time also knowing when to question their fellow man. And you know, I think that is something that we really tend to overlook, are those qualities that make excellent human beings, whether they knew 3 languages by the time that they were 4 or whether they're struggling to learn to read at 8. Our kids don't have to be prodigies. They are just as important as all of the other kids. And you know what? If we had an entire community, if we had an entire country, an entire world of people who had all of those qualities that I just listed, of empathy and integrity and a love for truth, kindness, generosity, if we had people who were raised in that way, our world would be such a better place. So yeah, we definitely do have room. We definitely do need people like those prodigies, because they are the ones who often come up with these breakthroughs. Don't ever underestimate your child just because they're not one of those kids who do that, because there is something beautiful to be found in normalcy. Because to be honest, that's what most of us are. Most of us are not at one end of the spectrum. We're not hopelessly ignorant, but we're also, you know, not complete geniuses. And that is okay. Our kids aren't like that either. Help them to know that you love them for who they are. And don't let all of these ideas of what you think homeschooled kids should look like, you know, if you're depending on the media or movies, or sometimes, yeah, even a lot of times you might hear other homeschooling families who do have kids like that and are talking about the things that their kids do. Don't ever let them shape what your vision of your kids should be. Your kids are individuals. Your kids were created by God to be unique. And I think that it is so important that we remember that. So don't let these insecurities that you might start to feel make you start pulling all sorts of different curriculum into your homeschool. And don't start making it so that you want to be too rigid with your kids, because it is so easy for that to happen. Because, you know, as I mentioned in this movie, you know, it showed the mother sitting at home and they had this school-type classroom with the algebraic equations on the board. And, you know, let's be honest. I would have to say that the people who come up with these ideas about what homeschooling is like in these movies probably don't know a real homeschooler, have never met one, have never talked to one. So they are basing what they know education to look like. So they are making these prodigy kids to look like they were being brought up in a way that was like a super school in their homeschool. And I just want you to remember that, you know, when it comes to the movies, those scenes are fictional. And again, don't base what your family does, don't base what your kids do on what others are doing. Your kids have value no matter where they're at on the spectrum. And I just wanted to share that with you today. So anyway, that's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one down below. And if you like my work, I encourage you to check out my page on Patreon and see what rewards I have for my patrons there. And I hope you have a great day.